There are moments in life when the soul only recognizes what it had once it's already gone. And now, without fully understanding how or why, his heart keeps returning to the memories of you. You were the calm in his chaos, the home he didn't know he needed, the place his spirit could finally breathe. He searched for answers in the noise, but what he needed had always been the silence you carried within your eyes. He didn't see it when he had the chance. He mistook your patience for permanence, your forgiveness for something ordinary. He thought safe places were things he could return to at will, not understanding that even the purest hearts get tired of waiting to be seen. And now the silence left in your absence is louder than any words he ever spoke. You, beloved, were the soft place where his wounds could unravel without judgment. You were the steady light in the middle of his storm, the one presence that asked for nothing, but gave everything. You didn't force your love, you offered it. You didn't demand his healing, you simply stayed when no one else would. But he didn't know how to accept it. He didn't know how to hold a love that wasn't built on conditions, performance, or fear. He thought safety meant control, and you offered freedom instead. And so, confused by his own broken patterns, he distanced himself from the very heart that was teaching him how to be whole. Now in the quiet moments of his life, your absence weighs heavier than he dares to admit. He feels the hollow places where your laughter once echoed. He senses the loss in ways he cannot put into words, only into restless nights and unanswered prayers. The soul knows when it has lost its home. And my daughter, I need you to understand, your worth was never based on his ability to see you. Your light didn't diminish because he failed to recognize its warmth. You carried heaven within you, and whether or not he honored it at the time, the heavens themselves bore witness to your offering. There's a reason your spirit aches, sometimes without explanation. It's because when two souls brush that closely, an invisible bond is formed, something not easily broken, even by distance or denial. And while he may try to forget, while he may busy himself with distractions, his soul remembers. His soul always remembers. You see, when a heart has truly tasted peace, it cannot fully settle for chaos again. Even if he runs to 1,000 places, none of them will echo the sacred silence you offered. None of them will carry the softness that called his soul out of hiding and into life. And that absence will haunt him in ways he won't know how to explain. But you, beloved, are not meant to chase what is blind to your value. You were called to be a resting place, not a battlefield. You were sent to be a mirror of divine patience, not a lesson in endurance. Your love was never a mistake. It was a seed sown into eternity, even if he only recognizes its beauty from afar. And I, as the messenger sent to you today, remind you, just because he was slow to see does not mean your offering was in vain. Heaven saw it. Heaven recorded it. Heaven honors it. Every tear, every silent prayer, every moment you chose love over pride is a jewel in your crown. He is waking up slowly, painfully, to the truth he once rejected. You were the only place where he could lay down his masks without fear. You were the soul that saw him, not for what he could offer, but for who he was underneath all the brokenness. And though he didn't say it, his spirit knew it. Now the world around him feels colder. The spaces he runs to don't shelter him the way you did. Other smiles feel hollow. Other embraces feel conditional. And in the deep hours of the night, when pride sleeps and truth rises, it is your name that stirs like a sacred whisper in his chest. But this is not your burden to carry. His journey is his own. His realization is not your rescue. You are not called to be the lifeboat for a man learning how to swim in the consequences of his own choices. You are called to keep walking toward the destiny that is already calling your name. You may wonder sometimes if he thinks of you, if he regrets. The answer, daughter, is yes. But the deeper truth is this: you were not meant to live, paused in the echoes of his awakening. You were meant to soar in the light of your own anointing. You were meant to be the one who grew wings when the ground fell away. Every time you chose love instead of bitterness, heaven took notice. Every time you released him instead of clinging, your spirit grew stronger. Every time you stood silent instead of demanding recognition, you built a strength that even the storms of life cannot steal. And now, I urge you, honor what you gave, but don't remain where you were not honored in return. Bless the memory of who you were to him, but bless yourself even more for who you are becoming. You are not the girl he didn't see. You are the woman who walked away when she realized her worth. He will carry your memory like a compass he didn't know he needed until he was lost. And one day, whether whispered in a prayer or breathed in a regret, he will admit to himself the truth he couldn't say to you, that you were his safe place, and that he only realized it when the door had already closed. So walk on, daughter, with grace in your step and fire in your spirit. The journey ahead is full of promises that require your whole heart, not just the pieces that once waited for him. He was a chapter, not your entire story. Heaven still has pages yet to be written in your name. And as you move forward, carry this truth deep in your soul. You were, and still are, a sanctuary. Not everyone is ready for that kind of love. But one day, someone will not only recognize it, they will cherish it without hesitation. They will call it home without needing to lose it first. He sits in places now where laughter surrounds him, but never truly touches him. He smiles at jokes that barely register, nods along to conversations that never reach his heart. Because what he misses isn't noise, isn't company. It's the sacred quiet of your presence, the way your soul met his without needing explanation or performance. In fleeting moments, he feels it strongest, those times when the world slows and he remembers how you made everything simple, how with you, he didn't have to prove or defend or explain. He simply was, and that was enough. He didn't realize how rare that feeling was until it slipped through his fingers like sand. He thought safe places were permanent, thought hearts like yours would always wait for him to find his way. But time is a river, and even the purest shores must sometimes let go of those who refuse to land. Now he floats, untethered, wondering why no ground feels solid under his feet anymore. You were the warmth he tried to replace with passing seasons and shallow distractions. But the soul doesn't forget the hands that once held it gently. It remembers, even when the mind tries to deny, even when pride tries to bury what the spirit knows to be holy. He fights memories now like a man battles ghosts. He tries to laugh louder, live faster, busy himself with things that have no roots. But deep down, when the noise fades and the dark settles in, he feels it. That gaping absence, the hollow place where your light once lived. He didn't lose you because you failed him. He lost you because he wasn't ready to be the man your heart deserved. No amount of excuses, no rewriting of the story can undo the truth that love demands courage. And courage was what he lacked when it mattered most. There are places he avoids now without realizing why. Songs he skips without knowing the reason. Smells, colors, fragments of life that once intertwined with you, and now pierce him with a bittersweet ache he cannot explain to anyone else. You were never just comfort, daughter. You were transformation. You were a holy interruption to a life he thought he understood. Loving you was an invitation to heal, to grow, to become. And when faced with that holy weight, he chose the easier path of staying the same. And though he ran, though he buried, though he distracted, the invitation still haunts him. The memory of a safe place freely given and foolishly abandoned knocks at the doors of his spirit when he least expects it, when he least desires to remember what he forfeited. Now he dreams of a peace he cannot recreate, of a connection he cannot rebuild with hands too hardened by regret. And every new connection feels thinner, more fragile, more easily broken, because none were forged in the sacred fire of unconditional love like the one you offered him. Your spirit, beloved, still moves through his nights like a silent hymn, not in bitterness, not in accusation, but in quiet witness, a reminder that real love came for him once and waited patiently, and that he, in his fear, turned away from the one place that could have saved him. He speaks less of love now, but thinks of it more. He trusts less easily now, but longs more deeply. Because the heart remembers what the mind tries to erase, and what he lost in you was not just a companion, but a sanctuary. You were the place where he could have learned that love was not something to be earned, but something to be received. You were the living proof that safety does not require perfection, only presence, only truth, only the courage to stand bare and be loved anyway. And now, without realizing it, he seeks you in every face he meets. He listens for echoes of your laughter in crowded rooms. He searches for the steadiness you gave him in the shaky hands of strangers. But soul ties are not so easily replaced, and real love does not duplicate itself on command. You, daughter, were the rarest kind of grace, a grace that meets a man where he is, but refuses to leave him there. And even now, even after all the silence, all the distance, your spirit remains a landmark in the map of his life, a place he once called home and lost through his own blindness. He will learn in time that no safe place can be rebuilt without the willingness to be seen. He will learn that love cannot be demanded or controlled, only nurtured. But whether or not he finds his way back to love, you have already stepped into a greater truth. You were always whole. He thought losing you would hurt for a while, then fade. But true losses don't fade. They carve themselves into the fabric of who we become. And every silent prayer you whispered over him, every tear you cried unseen, every blessing you spoke in private, they live inside him still. You were the quiet blessing he couldn't understand, the answered prayer he was too restless to recognize. And now, with each passing day, as the noise of his world grows louder, but his peace grows thinner, your memory shines brighter, untouchable, holy. And though he may never find the words, though he may never cross the distance his fear created, his spirit knows what his pride won't say, that you were his safe place. And no matter how far he runs, no matter how much time passes, a part of him will always ache for what he once had and lost by his own hands. Sometimes he wonders if you knew all along, if you sensed the hesitation behind his smiles, the fear buried underneath his laughter. Sometimes he wonders if you stayed, not because you were blind to his brokenness, but because you saw it and chose to love him anyway. And that thought humbles him in ways he will never confess out loud. He doesn't realize that love like yours doesn't just fade into memory. It imprints itself onto the soul, like an ancient melody that lingers long after the music stops. He can distract himself for a time, chase empty comforts, but your presence remains a steady echo, a reminder that he once tasted something rare and holy. In the quiet parts of his mind, he replays your patience. How you waited, not with resentment, but with hope. How you spoke life into dreams he was too afraid to dream for himself. How you offered him a version of himself he had long given up believing could exist. And even now, he feels the loss of that hope like a hollow in his chest. The world will tell him to move on, to forget, to rebuild quickly. But the soul does not move on from sacred spaces. The soul grieves them. The soul longs for them. And though he may appear strong and steady to others, inside he wrestles with the ache that no one else seems to notice. You were not simply a passing love. You were a mirror held up to his truest self. And that is why losing you hurts deeper than he admits. Why your memory feels less like a choice and more like a heartbeat he can't control. Because the spirit remembers where it was, once fully known and fully accepted. And still, he tries to quiet the longing. He tells himself he was not enough for you, that perhaps you deserved someone easier, lighter, someone without so many ghosts. But even those excuses crumble under the weight of truth. That you loved him as he was, and he chose fear over healing. He underestimated the cost of losing a safe place. He thought the ache would lessen with time, that he would fill the gaps with new beginnings. But real connections are not erasable. They are etched into the bones of memory, into the silent spaces of the soul that no distraction can fully reach. You were his witness, his safe harbor, his sanctuary. And he abandoned that sanctuary thinking he could build another. But sanctuaries are not built overnight. They are born of trust, watered with loyalty, and sealed by spirit. And once lost, their absence is a silence that screams louder than any noise. Now he sees glimpses of what he had, reflections of what he lost, and each glimpse stings sharper than the last. In every kind word he misses hearing, in every soft glance he misses receiving. He feels the gap widen between the life he chose and the life he forfeited. He doesn't know how to reach you now. Pride, fear, shame, all the walls he built to protect himself have now become his prison. He watches from a distance, longing and regretting, but unable to cross the bridge he once burned with his own trembling hands. And you, beautiful soul, have learned to walk without needing to look back. You have found strength in the spaces he could not fill. You have discovered that your worth was never tied to his ability to recognize it. Your worth was always written by heaven, etched deeper than human frailty could ever erase. Still, somewhere inside him, a quiet prayer rises. A hope that someday, somehow, your paths might cross again. Not so he can possess you, but so he can finally honor what he once treated too lightly. He dreams of one more chance, not to be loved, but to love rightly. He tried to run from the absence, tried to numb the ache, but the more he ran, the louder the memory of you became. It follows him not like a punishment, but like a sacred whisper, a reminder that some things, once touched by divine hands, cannot be forgotten. And though he tells himself that you are better off without him, and perhaps you are, there is still a part of him that wonders what it would feel like to stand in front of you again, no longer hiding, no longer afraid, simply asking for forgiveness with the eyes of a man who has finally understood. You have become more than the woman who once waited for him. You have become the woman who chose herself when waiting became too costly. You have risen not out of spite, but out of sacred necessity. You became the safe place for yourself when he could not be the place you needed him to become. The beauty of your spirit has only deepened. The tenderness he once took for granted has now become the strength that carries you forward. And heaven rejoices over you, daughter, because you chose the narrow road, the road of love, forgiveness, and holy resilience. He may find pieces of you in the world, reflections of the love you gave him, but he will never find the fullness of your spirit duplicated. Because what you offered was one of a kind, written in the language of heaven, signed by the hand of God, and sealed with the fragrance of eternal love. In time, he will come to understand that losing you wasn't a punishment, it was a revelation. A mirror showing him the consequences of living half-heartedly, loving fearfully, hiding from the very thing that could have set him free. You were his safe place, daughter, his unearned grace, his undeserved miracle. And even if he never has the words to tell you, his soul will spend a lifetime whispering it across the distance between what was and what could have been. And you, oh beloved, you are called to keep soaring, higher, freer, stronger. Because you are not the brokenness he could not heal. You are the victory heaven is still unfolding. If you stayed with me until this final moment, know this: heaven sees your heart. Every time you open yourself to receive a word like this, you are aligning your spirit with healing, with truth, with the destiny written for you before you even knew how to dream it. Thank you for allowing this message to touch you, to awaken what perhaps was buried beneath the weight of disappointment and silence. You're not forgotten. You're not invisible. You are deeply loved by the one who formed you. If this message spoke to your soul, if you felt a confirmation rising inside of you, I invite you to declare it aloud by commenting, "I can do all things through him who strengthens me." Let this be your agreement with heaven. Let this be your public stand of faith and trust. And if you wish to continue walking this sacred journey with us, receiving prophetic words, heavenly encouragement, and divine insights, please subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell so you won't miss a single message sent to uplift and strengthen you. Stay watchful, daughter. Stay expectant. The angels are still speaking. The next message may carry the very breakthrough your heart has been praying for. Until then, may your heart be filled with peace, your steps be guided by grace, and your spirit be lifted by hope. You're never walking alone. Heaven walks with you.